Okay, so where have I been? Kind of lost in the sauce, to be very honest. September also went sideways. And it's just like this never-ending excuse, which is awful. I got so sick because of my allergies. I had these severe allergy attacks. And one of the books that I was reading was much more than I bargained for. I'm Quinn Moone. I write queer fairy tales. This is what I read for the month of September, and it is not impressive. I'm going to start with what I didn't finish. Our good friend, the Iliad. I was supposed to read 250 pages of the book. Oh, it's upside down. I was supposed to read 250 pages of the book and get me to book 18. I am currently on book 13. October is the last month I have to read it before I have to start trialing my outlining process for December. I'm gonna trial it in November. So I need to finish the rest of the Iliad, yay much, in October. The Iliad, not surprisingly, is a very, very dense piece of literature. I know it's like saying that the water is wet, right? It just cannot be overstated how dense this text is. Going at it alone, going at it for extended periods of time is a little draining. So while I am very happy that I'm reading it, it is a very slow reading. I have to finish it this month, which I will. I am about halfway through. And this is the second book of the month that I'll be picking up probably this week because it's also late, this recording. I will have to finish it this month because then November is screwed and I just can't have that. So I did not finish the 250 pages of the Iliad. I did read about 115. Not great. We still did make progress. One of the reasons that September was such a slow go is because of this book, Separate Rooms by Pier Vittorio Tondelli. I did finish it in September. I haven't recorded the book talk video. I haven't even really wrapped up the vlog because of how dense and difficult this book was. In this book, we follow Leo as he mourns the loss of his lover Thomas to AIDS during the AIDS epidemic in Europe. This book not only is a meditation on grief, on disenfranchised grief, but also commentary on the different ways that grief in such toxic settings, in such dysfunctional places, is processed. And not surprisingly, this book was very dense, but it was a very poignant and honest depiction of what it is to grieve someone that you had this broken, dysfunctional love for, and the guilt, the regrets, trying to piece your life together again after you've lost something that to you is like losing your arm. It's like losing an appendage. This grief processing was so intense. It was such a slow, it's not a slog. Like a slog is like, saying that this is a slog is a trivialization of, it's trivializing the reality of what this book represents. Millions of people suffered this. This was very real. And the book handles it in a very dignified, real way. This was also kind of in the middle of it. After it, you know, it was still questions. The author himself succumbed to AIDS himself in like 1991. So this book has such a story to tell, and it tells it so well, but it was very heavy. It was very difficult to read for an extended period of time. Like I had to read a paragraph or two and then pause. I read a page and I paused. The last time a book hit me like this was The Vegetarian by Hong Kong. And like, even We Do Not Part was heavy, but The Vegetarian towards the end, I had to read it in sentences and I had to put the book down, and I had to read it in sentence and put the book down. This book wasn't that intense. I needed to pace myself because it wasn't a dramatic grief. Like, I think that's also what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting. I wanted a grief that was very over the top. I wanted a grief that was screaming this loss, but it's not. This grief is quiet, it's constrained, it's repressed because you can't have this grief because your relationship isn't real in the eyes of the world. Seeing a character repress his grief, suppress it and put it down, and this isn't real, and I'm okay, and I'm okay, and I'm okay, and seeing the character say I'm okay at every single turn, knowing they're not, was suffocating. This entire book, that's it. This entire book, I was holding my fucking breath while Leo suffered, while Leo tried to get the world to just leave him alone, to try to suffer with dignity, to try to grieve with dignity, to try to grieve when he wasn't supposed to and allowed to grieve. When his own friends were like, really, he wasn't that big of a deal. It's like, but he was to me. If he was nothing to you, he was gonna be nothing to you, but to me, he was everything. It's this suffocating grief that this book is, and it's a slow suffocation. It's not realizing that you've been holding your breath for like 2 200 some odd pages. And then you finally surface at the end and you're just like, I need to take a breath. This book took me 2.5 weeks to get through, maybe 3/4 of it. It should not have taken that long. But this book demanded that of me because of how exceptionally well written it was in its depiction of someone desperately trying to be okay when they're not. I finished Separate Rooms and it was phenomenal. I will get around to recording my book talk. I will get around to finishing the vlog. I feel very candidly, I feel unqualified to be able to speak to this book. I feel like the words that I put out there are not going to be enough. I feel like someone else needs to help me understand this book, and maybe that's what I need to make the video of. I need to make the video and then have a discussion with people more intelligent than me about this book, because there's so much in here that I have no expertise in appropriately conveying or discussing. I'll make the video. Someone more intelligent than me, someone more qualified and capable than me needs to write something so that I can have help organizing my thoughts. I need help to process what this book really was. Very heavy, very good, but it will be draining in a very satisfying and unfortunate way. After I got through that book, I picked up something a little lighter, something that would just pull me out of that darkness. There are very few books that I like succumb to the darkness. I read sad gay all the time. Like, that is common, that is a threat. I cry for days at a time for sad gay. It's just a common thing in my life. To be in such a, not a dark place, because there are people in dark places that wasn't where I was. To be in such a gray, melancholic state for so long, I needed something to bring me out of that, right? So I picked up The Trojan War by Barry Strauss. When I tell you that this book made my day, it made my week. I loved reading this book. I loved annotating. I loved, like, what are we doing, Barry? I loved just the annotation, the dissecting of the war, but really, did that really happen? No, it didn't. And I think I'm allergic to this book and like the paper that it's printed on. As I was coughing and sneezing the entire time. I actually had to read this with a mask on, but it was so worth it. The amount of information I got out of this book, and some of it I didn't agree with. I'm like, no, I don't agree. But it was so good. And I got this at Open Books in Logan Square in Chicago for $6.50. The best $6.50 I've spent in a very, very long time. In this book, we follow Barry Strauss unpacking the Iliad, and it is so cool. I love it. It was the logistics of, yeah, well, there were still ships coming and going because they still had stuff, being delivered. They still had to sell their slaves. They had to ransom a bunch of people. And just the logistics, like the unpacking of the logistics and Barry Strauss being like, this doesn't sound right, was so fun. I really enjoyed this book. It is probably going to be one of the most important books for me for this year. There's this one and then 1177 BC by Eric H. Klein. These two books, they're down there in my kit, are gonna be like the cornerstone of a lot of the outlining that I will be doing in the month of December. This gives me the realism that the myth obviously doesn't. I freaking love this book. It was so fun, so brilliant. I don't need to agree with everything. It was just a fun, amazing little book. It's gonna be so important to me. Like, hell yeah, I'm glad I bought this. Like, go me. I bet I made an amazing purchase. This book is gonna be like my bestie when I'm outlining. That's all I read in the month of September. I read 115 of 250 pages of the Iliad, and I read Separate Rooms by Pier Vittorio Tondelli and The Trojan War by Barry Strauss. That is it. It seems really silly and it seems very small. It doesn't seem like a lot, and it doesn't seem like I made a lot of progress. And I guess on paper I didn't. But the progress that I made in my outlining in my late Bronze Age, Iliad, Trojan War sort of story was leaps and bounds ahead of where I would have been if I had not read The Trojan War by Barry Strauss. Regarding Separate Rooms, my queer literary repertoire is much richer having read Separate Rooms. That book was probably one of the hardest books that I have ever picked up, and it was well worth every single moment that I read slowly with and grieved with Leo and grieved with the characters and mourned Thomas. It was a read that was so difficult and so well worth it. And I feel like my literary life is richer for having read it. That's it for this video. Extremely short because, you know, not a whole lot of reading was done, but quality progress was still made. I hope that y'all's reading was like better last month. Let me know what you read for the month of September and August, because I didn't post one of these in August. Let me know what you read. I would love to have a discussion. If you have read Separate Rooms, tell me, talk to me. If you have read Separate Rooms, like, please help me understand the book, because there's so many narratives. I know there's a multi-layer narrative. I know I am missing something. I need help finding what I'm missing, because I've read articles. I read everything I could about Separate Rooms, and none of it delves into the level of detail that I usually research and like get to during my own like video essays and articles that I'm reading and things like that. If you've read Separate Rooms, talk to me about it. I would love to hear your thoughts. That's it for this video. I'll catch you next time. Bye.